Hello everyone, and welcome to my Young and the Restless official 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. The tension inside the Newman Ranch had been simmering for days, but no one could have predicted the explosion that was about to erupt. It began with a whisper, a rumor that Victoria had uncovered a set of DNA results linked to Noah's mysterious connection to Mitch Bacall, the man who had recently surfaced in Genoa City claiming he wasn't Matt Clark. But beneath Mitch's composed exterior lay the same manipulative energy that haunted Nick Newman's youth, the smirk, the tone, the smug confidence. When Nick entered the room and locked eyes with Mitch, it was like a ghost had come back from the grave. And that ghost had a face Nick could never forget. Nick's blood boiled the moment Mitch opened his mouth. "You're making a mistake, Nick," Mitch said coolly, flashing that familiar grin that once belonged to his old nemesis, Matt Clark. "You're seeing what you want to see." But Nick wasn't buying it. Years of buried rage bubbled to the surface. "Don't you dare talk to me like I don't know who you are," Nick growled, his fists clenched so tight his knuckles turned white. The room fell silent. Victoria, Sharon, and Noah stood frozen. Sharon's eyes darted between the two men, her heart pounding with a secret she'd kept too long. She knew that tonight, one way or another, everything would come crashing down. When Mitch, still insisting on his new identity, took a step closer to Noah, Nick snapped. "Stay the hell away from my son," he roared. Mitch laughed. "Your son? That's rich," he said with a dark smirk. "You sure you're not talking about my son?" That one sentence shattered the fragile control Nick had left. Before anyone could stop him, Nick lunged forward and delivered a powerful punch square to Mitch's jaw. The sound echoed through the mansion like a thunderclap. Mitch stumbled backward, crashing into a glass table that shattered beneath him. Blood trickled from the corner of his mouth as he smirked again, almost proud. "Hit a nerve, didn't I?" he muttered. Victoria gasped, covering her mouth in shock, while Sharon ran to Nick's side, her voice trembling. "Nick, stop. Please, this isn't the way." But Nick's fury wasn't just about Mitch's lies, it was about everything that man represented. Every nightmare, every betrayal, every scar from the past had just materialized in front of him. "You tried to destroy my family once," Nick spat. "You won't do it again." But Sharon's voice cracked through the chaos like lightning. "Nick, listen to me. He's not lying about everything." The room froze again. Noah, who had been silent until now, looked at his mother, confusion and fear in his eyes. "Mom, what does he mean by my son?" Sharon's heart broke at the look on Noah's face, so much like the boy he used to be, trusting, hopeful, unaware of the web of secrets spun around him. Tears welled up as she whispered, "Noah, there's something I need to tell you." She looked at Nick, her voice trembling. "Something I should have told you both a long time ago." Nick turned toward her, still shaking from adrenaline. "What are you talking about, Sharon?" he demanded. But her gaze was fixed on Noah, as if the rest of the world no longer existed. "The DNA test," she whispered. "The one that Victoria found, it's real." Noah's eyes widened. "What do you mean, it's real? What test?" Sharon took a deep breath. "The test that says Mitch might be your biological father." The silence that followed was suffocating. It was as if time itself stopped. Nick staggered back, his face draining of color. "That's not possible," he said hoarsely. "It can't be." But Sharon's tears told a different story. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this," she sobbed. "Years ago, when everything with Matt Clark happened, when I thought it was over, there were things I didn't know. Things that came back years later." She turned to Noah, who stood frozen, his face pale, his breath shallow. "When you were a baby, Nick, and I never doubted you were his. But when the hospital records resurfaced during that old investigation, I had another test done, just to be sure. And I kept it hidden. I was afraid, Noah. I didn't want to destroy what we had." Nick stared at Sharon, his voice breaking. "You're telling me you knew?" You knew this could be true and you didn't tell me? Sharon's tears spilled freely. I couldn't bear to see you hate me again. I thought I could bury it, that it didn't matter, because you raised Noah. You were his father in every way that counted. But the damage was already done. Noah looked between them, shaking his head in disbelief. So what, you've both been lying to me my entire life, he said, his voice trembling. You let me believe I was your son, Dad. And you, he turned to Sharon, you let me think we were the perfect family. Nick reached out, desperate to explain, but Noah pulled away. Don't touch me, he snapped. How could you both do this to me? Mitch, still bleeding but smirking from the floor, chuckled darkly. Now you know why I came back, he said softly. You can try to run from the past, but blood always finds a way. That sinister satisfaction in his voice made Nick see red again. Shut your mouth, he barked. But Sharon grabbed Nick's arm. No, Nick. Stop. He's done enough damage already. The room was chaos. Victoria stepped forward, furious. How could you keep this from us, Sharon? From the entire family? But Sharon couldn't speak. All she could do was reach for her son, her voice breaking. Noah, please. You're my heart. No matter what that paper says, you are mine. She tried to hug him, but Noah hesitated, torn between the mother he loved and the betrayal he couldn't process. Finally, his walls broke. Sharon's tears soaked his shoulder as she hugged him tightly, whispering, I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I should have told you the truth. I should have trusted you. Nick turned away, his chest heaving. The image of Matt Clark, this Mitch Bacall, was seared into his mind. You ruined everything once, he muttered under his breath. And you're trying to do it again. But Mitch just smirked through the pain. Maybe I didn't ruin anything. Maybe I just revealed what was always there. Nick lunged forward again, but this time Victor's booming voice filled the doorway. That's enough. The patriarch of the Newman clan had arrived, and when Victor Newman entered the room, the chaos froze instantly. Victor's sharp gaze swept over the wreckage, the shattered glass, the blood, the tears. Would someone explain why my son is throwing punches and why my grandson looks like he's seen a ghost, he demanded. Nick, still seething, pointed at Mitch. Because he is Matt Clark, he said. He's back, Dad. He's using another name, but it's him. Victor turned slowly toward Mitch, his eyes narrowing. You have some nerve coming back here, boy. Mitch wiped the blood from his lip and smirked. You can call me Mitch now. I've turned over a new leaf. Victor's face darkened. You think I don't recognize a viper when I see one? He said coldly. You step foot near my family again, I'll make sure you regret it. Mitch just chuckled softly, almost daring him. Seems like your family's doing a fine job of destroying itself without my help. And with that, he staggered out, leaving behind an emotional wasteland. The aftermath was devastating. Noah sat on the couch, staring blankly into space. Sharon knelt beside him, holding his hand, whispering words he barely heard. You're my son, Noah. Nothing changes that. But deep down, he wasn't sure what he believed anymore. How am I supposed to look in the mirror now? He whispered. Every time I see my face, I'll wonder if I'm his. Sharon's heart shattered all over again. Noah, please don't say that. You're good, you're kind, you're everything he could never be. DNA doesn't define who you are. Nick, meanwhile, stood by the fireplace, his mind spiraling. He'd been betrayed, not just by Sharon, but by fate itself. All this time, he muttered. All these years thinking I'd left that monster behind, and he's been haunting us through my own son. Victor approached him, placing a hand on his shoulder. Son, he said gravely, you can't let this destroy you. You raised that boy. You are his father, no matter what some piece of paper says. But Nick's eyes were filled with anguish. How do I protect him from that blood? He asked quietly. Sharon overheard, her heart breaking again. You don't need to protect him from it, she said softly. You just need to love him through it. But Nick's silence said it all. Trust had been broken in ways words couldn't mend overnight. As the night wore on, the Newman estate grew quiet again, but the emotional wreckage lingered. Sharon sat beside Noah, brushing his hair gently like she used to when he was little. You were born out of love, Noah. Never forget that. He looked at her, his voice barely above a whisper. But was it your love, or his hate? She couldn't answer. Instead, she hugged him tighter, as if her arms alone could protect him from the truth. Nick stood by the window, staring out into the darkness where Mitch had disappeared. His jaw was tight, his eyes burning with resolve. If Matt Clark thinks he can destroy my family again, he muttered, he's got another thing coming. And though the night was silent, something in the air felt ominous, a storm was coming. Mitch's reappearance had already ripped open old wounds, but Nick's punch was only the beginning. Because the DNA truth had changed everything. As dawn broke over Genoa City, the Newmans were left fractured, each one grappling with what the revelation meant for their future. Sharon, haunted by guilt but strengthened by her love for her son. Noah, torn between two fathers, one who raised him, and one whose blood ran in his veins. And Nick Newman, a man once again at war with the ghost of Matt Clark. But this time, the fight wasn't just about revenge, it was about reclaiming his family's soul before history repeated itself. And somewhere in the shadows, Mitch wiped the blood from his lip, staring at a photograph of Noah. You can't change blood, he whispered to himself. Sooner or later, he'll come looking for answers, and when he does, he'll find me. The game had only just begun. The sun rose slowly over Genoa City, its pale light slipping through the heavy curtains of the Newman ranch. But for Nick, Sharon, and Noah, there was no comfort in the new day. The storm that had broken the night before still hovered like an invisible fog, thick with tension, regret, and questions no one was ready to face. The punch Nick had thrown still ached in his knuckles, a reminder of the violence he'd unleashed on a ghost he couldn't bury. And Sharon's confession still echoed in every room, every breath. Nick stood in the kitchen, staring blankly into a mug of untouched coffee. His reflection shimmered in the dark liquid, tired, broken, and older than he felt. He could still see the flash of Mitch's grin, the blood trickling from his mouth, the satisfaction in his eyes. He'd given Matt Clark exactly what he wanted, a reaction. He's laughing at me right now, Nick muttered bitterly. He wanted me to lose control. He wanted me to hit him. Behind him, a soft voice broke the silence. You didn't just hit him, Nick, you hit everything he stood for. Sharon stood in the doorway, her hair tousled from a sleepless night, her eyes red and puffy. She looked fragile, almost transparent, like the truth had drained all the life out of her. You were defending Noah, she said quietly. Any father would have done the same. Nick turned to her, his jaw tight. Any father, he repeated, the words tasting bitter. You sure you want to use that phrase right now? Sharon flinched. She knew she deserved it. Nick, please, she whispered. Don't shut me out. Not now. But Nick's eyes were cold. I don't even know what to say to you, he said. You looked me in the eyes for years and told me Noah was mine. You let me believe that, knowing there was a chance he wasn't. Tears welled in Sharon's eyes again. I wasn't trying to hurt you. I was trying to protect us. Nick's voice rose, sharp and raw. Protect us from what, Sharon? The truth? He slammed his coffee mug into the sink, the sound echoing through the quiet house. You lied to me about the one thing that mattered most. Sharon swallowed hard, her voice trembling. I know I did. And I'll regret it for the rest of my life. But Nick, you can't let that man win. He wants to destroy us, don't let him. Nick looked away, running a hand through his hair. He already has. Upstairs, Noah sat on the edge of his bed, staring at a framed photo of himself as a child, Nick on one side, Sharon on the other. His throat tightened. That photo used to be comfort, a snapshot of safety. Now, it felt like a life frozen in time. He could still hear Mitch's words echoing in his head, You sure you're not talking about my son? It was poison, and it was spreading fast. A knock on his door broke his thoughts. "Can I come in?" Victoria's voice was soft, cautious. She stepped inside, her expression caught between concern and the unyielding determination of a Newman. "Noah. I know you're hurting," she said gently. "But we'll figure this out." Noah shook his head. "How?" "You saw the test, Aunt Victoria. You saw what it said." His voice cracked. "All my life, I thought I was like Dad. Now I don't even know who I am." Victoria sat beside him. "You're still the same person you were yesterday. Nothing about that changes because of a piece of paper." But Noah wasn't convinced. "That piece of paper says my real father is a psychopath who destroyed this family once before." He looked at her, tears welling up. "How do I live with that?" Victoria sighed. "By remembering that you were raised by love, not DNA." She put a hand on his shoulder. "Nick will always be your father, Noah. But I'll tell you something, he's hurting just as much as you are. Maybe even more." Meanwhile, at Newman Enterprises, Victor Newman was already in damage control mode. He sat behind his massive desk, his expression hard as granite. "He's not getting away with this," Victor muttered, slamming a file shut. "Not again." Nikki entered, concern etched into every line of her face. "Victor, you can't just go charging after Mitch Bacall. You'll only make things worse." But Victor's jaw clenched. "Worse? The bastard waltzed into my home, taunted my son, and destroyed my grandson's peace of mind. You think I'm going to sit back and do nothing?" Nikki stepped closer. "Victor, you know what happened last time. When Matt Clark came after Nick and Sharon, it nearly tore this family apart. You can't let history repeat itself." Victor looked up, his eyes burning. "That's exactly why I won't let it repeat itself." He stood, grabbing his coat. "If this Mitch thinks he can crawl out of the shadows and claim one of my grandchildren, he's about to learn what it means to go to war with a Newman." Nikki's voice trembled. "Victor, please. Don't make this worse for Noah. He doesn't need revenge. He needs peace." But Victor was already gone, leaving her standing in the doorway, praying he wouldn't make another mistake that would cost them all dearly. Back at the ranch, Sharon sat in the living room, her hands trembling as she scrolled through her phone. She'd received a message, an unknown number, but the words chilled her blood. "We're not done. You owe me the truth, Sharon. Meet me at the lake house, or I'll tell him myself." She knew instantly who it was. Mitch. Panic set in, but she couldn't tell Nick. Not after the way he'd looked at her this morning. So, with her heart pounding, she grabbed her coat and slipped out the door. At the same time, Nick was meeting with Michael Baldwin, trying to figure out a legal angle. "If Mitch is using another name," Nick said, "we can expose him. Get him arrested for fraud, identity theft, anything." Michael sighed. "Nick, you need to be careful. If he's registered legally as Mitch Bacall, proving he's Matt Clark won't be simple. Especially if he's gone to lengths to erase his past." Nick's hand slammed onto the desk. "He's using that name to get close to my son. I'm not waiting around while he plays head games with my family." Michael leaned forward. "Then you need evidence, not anger." But Nick's anger was all he had left. Out by the lake, Sharon's breath turned to mist in the cold air as she approached the old dock. Mitch was already there, his hands shoved in his pockets, that same mocking half-smile plastered across his face. "Took you long enough," he said. "You always were sentimental, Sharon. Always trying to fix what can't be fixed." Sharon glared at him. "What do you want from me?" Mitch chuckled. "What I've always wanted, acknowledgement. You spent all these years hiding the truth. Now, I want the world to know that Noah isn't Nick's son. He's mine." Sharon's voice trembled with fury. "You'll never get that satisfaction. You don't deserve to be his father." Mitch stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Maybe not. But the truth's already out. You can't stop it now. And soon, he'll come to me. He'll want answers. He'll want to know where he came from. And when he does, I'll be there. Sharon's tears glistened in the pale light. You think this is about revenge, but it's not. You're doing this because you can't stand that Nick got the life you never could. You're jealous. Mitch's eyes darkened. Maybe I am. But it doesn't change the fact that your precious family was built on lies. And lies always crumble. Nick turned to her, his jaw tight. Any father, he repeated, the words tasting bitter. You sure you want to use that phrase right now? Sharon flinched. She knew she deserved it. Nick, please, she whispered. Don't shut me out. Not now. But Nick's eyes were cold. I don't even know what to say to you, he said. You looked me in the eyes for years and told me Noah was mine. You let me believe that, knowing there was a chance he wasn't. Tears welled in Sharon's eyes again. I wasn't trying to hurt you. I was trying to protect us. Nick's voice rose, sharp and raw. Protect us from what, Sharon? The truth? He slammed his coffee mug into the sink, the sound echoing through the quiet house. You lied to me about the one thing that mattered most. Sharon swallowed hard, her voice trembling. I know I did. And I'll regret it for the rest of my life. But Nick, you can't let that man win. He wants to destroy us, don't let him. Nick looked away, running a hand through his hair. He already has. Upstairs, Noah sat on the edge of his bed, staring at a framed photo of himself as a child, Nick on one side, Sharon on the other. His throat tightened. That photo used to be comfort, a snapshot of safety. Now, it felt like a life frozen in time. He could still hear Mitch's words echoing in his head, you sure you're not talking about my son? It was poison, and it was spreading fast.